Well, hello and welcome everybody to your weekly astrological weather. This is your place to get practical guidance for not only navigating with, but thriving with the cosmic tides. My name is Amanda Poole Walsh. I'm the founder of Astrology Hub, and I am here with your favorite weather woman, Predictive Astrologer Ann Ortelee. And Ann's obviously in a different locale today, and we're a little bit later than usual because Ann was in transit from New York to Florida. You're going to be seeing your new home for the first time today. Is that right?
I am. Yeah. Later today. Yeah. And I'm in my aunt's house. So my cousin Susan may come in, and there's a couple of dogs. So we may have barking.
Okay. Well, you know what?
Yeah, this is my aunt's backdrop. So this is Aunt Kay's house, my mother's younger sister.
Please tell Aunt Kay thank you from all of us for allowing you to do the broadcast from her home. And we all feel like we've been a part of this whole journey, the journey from you deciding that maybe you would move, and then you finding the place, and then you applying for the place and getting it. And now you're going to go see it for the first time. So it feels really
I did it all. I did it visually, but I also had stayed in the unit on the fourth floor. So I know the layout.
Yeah. The cool thing about this too, Anne, is you are showing us the energy of the year, which is all about, taking flight and getting our new wings and going on new adventures, and you're doing it.
Restructure your life. What are you waiting for? You gotta go. And it came in on Friday with the Mars on the North Node in Gemini. So I'm gonna keep New York and here. We're gonna do the snowbird thing. And the Sun-Venus conjunction at 6 Aries, which filled out I have a small cardinal T-square, but it filled it out. So so it was like, okay, we're ready.
Very nice. All right.
Low degree cardinal T-square. Yeah.
Before we dive in, I know you all have been patiently waiting, but before we dive in, I just want to make sure you all know about the Sacred Astronomy for Astrologers course taught by astronomer, astrologer, Gemini Brett. It starts this week. So any of you that are really curious about or interested in how to marry your understanding of astrology with the actual movements in the sky. So when we have squares and we have oppositions and we have all these different aspects, and you've ever wondered, can you actually see that? Like, can you see a square? Can you see an opposition? Can you see cycles? Can you track them? And how does that actually work tangibly with your practice? That's one aspect of this, but I wanted to read a few comments from the study group that we have for this course. So this course actually has a study group with it, which is really cool. And Gemini Brett is very active in there. But I wanted to read a few comments from some of the students to give you an idea for the kind of people that are drawn to the class, so you can identify whether or not you're one of those, because you might be. So this one was from Natalie. She says, fun fact, first of all, I have 0 water in my chart. So I just keep that in mind, I guess. But the thought of being able to do astrology without computers and just with the naked eye truly called to me as a way to connect deeper with the planets and understand the science from a whole new perspective. I'm excited to start and so grateful to be in this group with everyone. That's one perspective, and I'm hearing this a lot. The other one is from Sandy. She says, I just love being in the night. Being with the night. It has been my best friend through challenging times in my life. To understand that friend more deeply is an invitation I couldn't resist. Gemini Brett's devotional heart speaks to my own, and I delight in the joy he brings to teaching. He seems like such a gentle and humble soul with such a deep, deep knowledge and sensitivity to the beings we share this cosmos with. Feeling privileged to have such a teacher and a guide. So I'm seeing this, a lot of students who are like, God, since the time I was a little girl, I've been really fascinated by the night. I've felt a part of it. I've actually felt maybe like that's more home than Earth is. And so we're hearing things like that. And then we're hearing just the people that really want to take it from the computer and start to apply it, tangibly with the actual sky. So, Anne, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but.
Well, he has taught for OPA. I'm a member of OPA, the Organization for Professional Astrology, and he's taught the course to people that are certifying to be an astrologer. And everybody comes away from it going, oh my God, that was so amazing. Because we're very disconnected from the sky. We're on our computers. But once you realize it as a living being and you sit, and you know the feeling when you watch a sunset. You know, this morning as I was going to the airport, the sun was rising in the sky. I mean, I don't get up at this hour. And the sky was beautiful. It was just gorgeous. And I'm like, I should maybe do more sunrises. And then I thought, no. one a year is good. But when you tune into the nature and you tune into the clouds and you tune into the stars, it really connects you much more to it as a kind of almost a spiritual practice, I think. You know, when you sit and watch like certain constellations come up and you go, oh, I know that. I know, right. Oh, I recognize the Big Dipper. You know, and you start, because I originally used to think they were like weird little dots in the sky. And how do you see these things in them? But once you start looking at them and understanding the constellations, you really do see images in it. So it's very cool. Yeah. I totally recommend it. And we got divorced from astronomy back when they figured out that the Earth actually revolved around the sun, and some of us kept going tropical, which is the sun's path on the face. And the astronomers went, wow. So we split. So it's a good opportunity to bring it back, get married. And I encourage you to find your local, everybody's community has local astronomers. So when there's a big deal event, you know, they go sit and put up their telescopes and you can go watch, you know, things rise. It's very cool, or set, you know. So like we did on the 21st where everybody was out. I went to the west side in New York and everybody was out watching for Jupiter. It was a cloudy night, but Jupiter and Saturn were up there hanging out really close. So I think it's a really cool way to get to understand it as a more holistic, other than a computer.
Yeah.
So I recommend stars and I recommend ephemerises, because in that you can see the sweep of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anne, thank you so much for that. And I know you're the predictive astrologer, but I'm going to make a prediction.
Mm-hmm.
My prediction is that,
I think that it's a Gemini kind of day. Multiple predictions. It's good.
Exactly. My prediction is that when you move to Florida and you have those beautiful windows and you're able to see the sky, that you're going to be watching some more sunrises. I do think that's my prediction. We'll see if it comes true. But all right. So any of you interested in joining that class, you can go to astrologyhub.com/astronomy. Check it out. See if it's right for you. You can always try it for 7 days. We have a money back guarantee. So if you get in there and you're like, this isn't totally for me, you can get your money back. No questions asked. But it's just a great place to go if you really want to learn astronomy, but from an astrologer, which is different than learning astronomy from like your science class from high school. It's going to be very different because it's going to be bringing the quality of what you're seeing in, which is what astrology is, right? All right. So let's go to the week, Anne. We had a 200 week last week. I'm 20. Where are we at?
It was for a lot of people, there were sudden unexpected departures. So that's the Mercury at the last degree of Pisces. And we have that again this week. He goes into Aries on the 3rd of April. So it's a lot of endings and departures. And Mercury, of course, is animals too. So, you know, when you change your life, very often your pet passes. It's because it's your 6th house of your daily routines and habits, and your dogs and your cats are part of your routine. You feed them, you walk them, you do whatever. And so very often when people have major life changes, the pets leave because they've done their duty in that part of your life, and now you're going into a new chapter. So, you know, I always kind of monitor Facebook for the trends, and there were a lot of pets leaving and people leaving because the Mercury is at the last degree of the last sign of the zodiac, and he's shifting. And Mars, of course, hit the North Node, which he does every 2 years. But he hasn't hit it in Sagittarius, which is, and Gemini, which is okay, time to go on a new journey. So a lot of people felt like they were going on new journeys. Some people getting laid off. Some people were just having an aha moment. So this week we kind of consolidate it. And then next week when Mercury goes into Aries, because right now Mars is in Gemini, the nodes in Gemini, and they answer to Mercury in Pisces, as does the Sun in Venus. So Mercury in Pisces softens up the Aries energy, but it says, this is finished, right? You're finished with this? And then when Mercury shifts into Aries, Mars is now suddenly going to be answering to Mercury in Aries, and all the Aries planets get much more assertive and much more bold and much more okay, I got to go do stuff. So this week is kind of the setup for that. And of course, whenever we initiate new energy, we often leave a cycle behind and start something new. So this one will probably be not for everybody, but for some people, very emotional. Like in my case, I've never bought a house before, so I'm a virgin homeowner at 66. So I'm having the whole anxiety I used to have when I had to worry about kissing a boy. And I'm like, well, how do you do it? Like, and then you stick your tongue in their mouth, and I'm like, yeah, really? And then, of course, when you meet the person you want to stick the tongue in the mouth, you go, oh, this is fun, But that whole, like, that anticipatory. So you may find that being part of the story. You may find with Venus and the Sun coming to sextile Saturn in an opening sextile. So they're saying, they met up with Saturn when they were in Aquarius. And now they're saying, okay, we're taking it on the road. Remember the conjunction that happened in December with Jupiter and Saturn started a new story. And now Saturn and Venus coming to sextile Saturn this week and say, let's roll. And then they're also coming to aspect the nodes this week. So there's a lot of choices that we're going to be faced with or being asked to make. And as we watch those kind of roll in, it's important. And it also is the planets are on, there's all the planets in a little clump, and the moon is now heading off he's over on the far side of the chart. And so he's going to come in at the end of next week and hit Capricorn. But we have a full moon. We had a big, juicy full moon on Saturday afternoon with Sun and Venus conjunct opposite the moon in Libra. Of course, Libra answers to that Venus in Aries. So there's a lot of cross coordination. A lot of people are finding out things or hearing things that they had been kept secret up until now. And they're kind of going, oh my God, I didn't know, or I suspected. And so it's a lot of revealing energy, because one of the ways you can go forward is when you find out stuff, you go, oh, okay, well, that's what's going on. All right, now I can make a decision. A lot of people are feeling ambivalent about the decision. Remember, that's Mars in Gemini. He shifts into Cancer at the end of April, like the 23rd of April, which will then make him very changeable in his moods for 2 months, depending on what sign the moon's in. But right now, this week, answering to Pisces, little unclear, but you're walking down the road, you're trying on new things. And when he goes into Aries on the weekend, then the whole sky becomes forward. And remember, all the planets are moving forward right now. Nobody's retrograde. So the whole heavens are like a quiver with, let's get this done. And it's kind of interesting energy, because it's very, it's excited, but it's not really clear what it's doing. And so the weekend, it gets clear. So it's kind of an interesting mix of a week. So what I find with those, I tend to do the optimistic Neptune. Oh, gee, this should be fun. Other people go, oh my God, I got swamped. I got overwhelmed. I was so emotional. I was crying. So we're going to give that other side. I'm going to give Mars and Gemini propers. We had to do 2 recordings. I came in hanging upside down like a bat when I got here to my aunt's house. It's just that kind of day. You got to do it twice. That's the journey of figuring it out. And you have to kind of, again, back to our training wheels analogy from a couple weeks ago, it's beginner mind. Just go, okay, so what do I have to do? What are the processes? So I went through the costs last Friday with the mortgage loaner, and I asked her a question she didn't have the answer to. She said, I don't know the answer to that. I said, all right, well, get back to me. Like, what's that? Obviously, I'm a nosy Virgo with a lot of Scorpio. I want to know what everything is. And, I'm going to be paying it. So I want to know what it is. So she got back to me, but it was like, she goes, no, no one's ever asked me that before. And I said, okay, I'm not going to say you're not telling me the truth, but I want to know what it means. So it's that kind of week. It's a really weird week energetically. The problem with it is the moon is irritated on Sunday, Monday, because the full moon has a square as a closing aspect. Then Tuesday, Wednesday, the moon's sextile to Pluto in Scorpio, so it's very intense and very passionate. And then the Sag moon has a good energy. And then we get to the Capricorn moon on the weekend, again with the weekends with the hard moons, Amanda. but it is a conjunction, so moon conjunct Saturn. And then as the moon comes back into the Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, Aries section, it's going to go back through the bowl. So people can feel very alone with the moon on the far side of the chart from all the other planets. And also, because it is a full moon, we're seeing stuff. We're seeing things we hadn't seen before. So it's an interesting week. And I'm going to do the range thing again, because that's how I when I'm like one of these weeks, it could be like really big, could be like nothing happens, but you hear about stuff from other people. But the other thing, because Mars hits the nodes, it is action. So there's a lot of people, people from 19 years ago, people from when they were 19, people from when they were 36, changes in those people, because Mars hitting the node takes 19 years. So there can be a structural change in some of your friends or some of your relations to other people. It's an interesting week, but we have to remember Pisces likes to wrap stuff up. And even though the Sun and Venus are in Aries and they've started a new cycle, Mercury and Pisces is saying, I'm not done yet. You can't go until I'm finished. The last one in the car kind of thing. So that makes sense?
It does, Anne. Yes. And I have kind of before we recap some of those things, I have a big picture question.
Uh-huh.
And I was just wondering about this because last year we had the Saturn-Pluto conjunction in January, right? January 12th of 2020. 2 months later, I know the storyline was brewing, but most of us weren't aware of it until about 2 months later, right? Until March. And that's when it became clear to everyone.
Because Mars came through that clump and said, it was happening other places, but it came home. Home. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So my question is, I know we also had a big Saturn-Uranus square in February of this year. And that's kind of the backdrop energy for the whole year, because we're going to have that 3 times, right? My question is, are we in a similar situation where approximately 2 months later, the storyline of that will be blatantly clear? Meaning maybe in February it was like inklings of it, but we weren't sure. And then this month, April, or April coming up, will be like, oh, now I get what this whole Saturn-Uranus square is.
What it's going to be for me. Yeah. And then the other part of it is because Mars hit North Node at 13, that was where the Sun-Venus conjunction was in June. So a lot of people, June 1st through the 5th, they had a decision they made, and that's now being re-echoed or brought up again. So I've been talking to people and going, okay, so what happened in June? Well, that's when we decided to give it a second chance. And now what? Well, now we've decided it's not working. Or we went into therapy, we worked really hard, and now we're going to move in together. We're making decisions about our path. And remember, Gemini is 2 paths. It's the twins. So if you think of that scene in The Wizard of Oz, when Dorothy gets to the road and it divides, and she goes, well, now what do I do? And then the scarecrow talks and says, well, some people go this way and some people go that way. So it is a place of dividing and picking the road we're going to choose. Now, it's not a permanent change. You know how sometimes you go off the road. I'm driving again, right? Because I don't drive in New York. But I have a car here and I have a little GPS going, okay, now over in the 3rd lane. I'm like, all right. So you listen to the instructions that you're getting. And okay, you're going to have to turn left. I'm like, okay, I got it. I'm good. I can turn. All right, now go straight. I'm going straight. I talk back to her because, I feel like there's something in the car giving me instructions. It's watch for the instructions you get, because that's part of what the universe is giving you. It's giving you a lot of instructions. And some people, they're just having wild and crazy dreams, very out of control. And that energy is very strong too. And remember this Goldilocks thing that Uranus and Saturn do. Well, do you like that? Or you don't like that? You like this? Okay, how about the 3rd? So if you pick it on the 1st, like I did, it's like, okay, I'm doing this thing. Then the option to modify and change is in June. And then the 3rd is in December. Some people are leaving things now. I have one client moving and, having to pick where she's going to go, but she doesn't really like either choice. And I'm like, well, just think of it as a temporary move because you're moving again in December. You're not done moving until you get to the end of December, beginning of January. So you're going to possibly move now, but then you're probably going to move again because both of the choices in front of you right now are not what you want. So it's that kind of, and, I've got another one that's, wanting to move to Hawaii. Her son wants to move to New York. And so they're discussing it. And I'm like, well, why don't you summer in New York and move to Hawaii? Like the best of both worlds. So it's an interesting process that we're in about that compromise about where we're going to, because there's an element of compromising because the full moon in Libra said, who are you going to partner with? And Venus goes, I'm hanging out with the sun. And the moon in Libra's like, you don't want to hang out with me? And Venus is like, no, I'm hanging out with the sun. And so the moon goes and squares Saturn, and he feels a little sad, So it's an interesting energy, very emotional around relationships is the best way to say it. All the big ones, and because of the activation of the 19-year cycle, you can very much feel that cycles that were 19-year increments in your life are shifting. Because they're being really activated. The sun activates it on April 1st, and Venus activates the nodes on March 31st. And they both have sextiles to Saturn saying, if you choose this path, you're going to change this part of your life. Right? So they're both saying, well, I'm going to choose this. And then the nodes say, all right, you made your choice. You chose left. When I was younger, I was really young. It was my first apartment in New York, and down the hall, we were, 21-year-olds that didn't know how to do anything. Down the hall, my friend Gail and Lee lived, and Lee was a lawyer, and they were a little older than us. So a lot of times she would feed us, like she would say, why don't you come over and have some food? It was, because we didn't know how to cook either. I mean, we knew how to cook, but she would make these amazing smells. So I went over one day, and Lee was sorting out resumes because he was in charge of the summer intern program, and he worked at a big law firm here in New York. And I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, I'm sorting out resumes. And I'm like, oh, okay. I said, well, what makes you put this one in that pile and that one in this pile? He goes, well, this, He goes, okay, you can pick. I'm like, what do you mean I can pick? He said, you decide. Pick, look at the resume, see who you want. So I'm like, okay. And I put him in the pile and I put him in the pile. He goes, no. Like when you put that one in the reject pile, I said, well, it has a typo. He goes, I know, but you just ruined that person's career, right? Because they're not getting the summer internship. You just chose against them, so they're out. And I went, wow. I mean, he always did lessons like that, right? And then I went, okay. And then I got neurotic and I started putting everybody in the keeper pile. And he's like, you can't do that. We only have room for 20. And there was honestly, Amanda, there was a stack, maybe 300 resumes high. Oh, wow. I'm like, this is really hard. He goes, I know. I have the fate of their life in my hands. Wow. And I was like, wow. And it was that element of the choice made and giving me the responsibility. It was, 21-year-old kid who lives down the hall from him. But it was a really good lesson because I'm deciding against this person and they're not going to get it, or I'm deciding for them, but I can only have 20. Mm-hmm. It was very weird, but it was that making that choice and recognizing, that person didn't have the caprice, I'm kind of capricious. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what a good law student would look like, working as an internship. But he goes, yeah, so if you don't pick them, it ruins their entire career because they're not going to get in our law firm, and then they're not going to get hired by us, and then this is their dream, and, you just screwed them up. And I'm like, wow. He did very good examples.
So, yeah. Anne, so what I'm hearing, okay, let me see if I'm summarizing.
So that energy, it can be anxiety. Like, oh my God, I'm picking that, which means I'm not picking this.
Right. But what you said earlier is that we may be making decisions right now that will probably change a little bit this year. But my question is, will by the end of the year, whatever decisions we make, will they be more permanent? So what I'm asking is, like, this year we're sort of going back and forth, choosing, maybe course correcting, but then after December of this year, that those final choices are definitely like setting us on a trajectory. Am I getting that right?
They're setting us on the next 20 years.
Wow.
And it's very similar to 99, what you were doing in the fall of 99, in the winter of 2000, and then in May of 2000, you started a 20-year cycle. So then you had the setup before you picked. Now we had the conjunction, and it said, okay, we're giving you the setup based on the psychological work you did back in 99, 2000. What are you going to do for the next 20 years? And so it's like, oh, big decisions. And it is. It's a big decision. And of course, we all had last year to sit around and think about our lives because the world stopped. So we emerged from that, Saturn, Pluto, saying, what's the structure of my life? What does it look like? How do I want to change it? And then this is the year we do the changes. And some people do it on the first, some will do it on the second, and some will wait till the third. And, or it'll change on them. Something will change and it realigns their structure completely. Remember, Saturn is the structure you have, and Uranus is, okay, let's change it. But it has a psychological orientation. It's because it's a closing square. It wants you to really think about what you're choosing and to be clear about it. That's why it's right now a little muddled because of all the Neptune. But when we get to June, you'll be like, oh, okay, got it. Let me revise, revisit. And when we get to December, it's lock and load, you're in.
Wow. Fascinating. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So we need to take the decisions in front of us seriously, but know that there could be some course correction. This isn't like sealing the fate moment yet, but then by the end of the year, it will be like, this is the new trajectory for some people, a lot of people, I know geography is a big thing. People are considering moves. They're looking into living in new places that are more aligned with their values and more aligned with where they want to be long term. As you know, as we know, when you make a geographic move, it completely changes the trajectory. You meet entirely new people. A lot of times you're doing new work. Your children are in new schools. Everything changes.
They have new friends. You meet their parents. Those, the whole world shifts.
Yeah, the whole world shifts. Yeah. And then I think a lot of people are making career decisions. They're embarking on new projects. There's lots of change. You're right.
And Saturn rules your karma, your purpose, your work in the world. So Uranus is saying, change it up. And I mean, a lot of people are feeling really antsy, like I have to change. And some are going, I know I have to change and I don't wanna. Again, it's where the planets land. But look at what was happening in 99, because the same planets were in the same signs, but reversed. So back in 99, Saturn was in Taurus, and he plowed the field for you for the last 20 years in Taurus. And Uranus was freedom, 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 go, 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 create, create, create. So you created something while you plowed the field. Now, it's the reverse. Uranus is in Taurus, and he's saying, that field you plowed back in 2020, you want to blow it up, change it, do something new. And Saturn in Aquarius is going, I'm thinking I want a different option. And remember the difference, Saturn rules Capricorn and Aquarius. Capricorn is when we build the structures. Aquarius is when we disseminate them to others or we take them down. So there's a lot of, we see a lot of people getting taken down in the media. I was watching that Mars node and, the Venus Aries, and of course Sharon Osbourne lost her job on Friday. I was waiting for that Friday, and there was a lot of stuff, my client base and in my friend base, people had major structural changes in their lives. And that's this whole year. So it's, when I took tennis lessons when I was younger, or when we were skiing lessons, and they always were like, bend your knees and be ready to kind of rock and roll, like you get down on your knees and you're okay, I'm ready. That kind of, I can go either way. Where are you going to hit the ball? And so that energy is our best approach to it. And then because the North Node is in Gemini, you might not know what you're doing. You might be being a 66-year-old virgin buying property. I called one of my friends, and he was like, he's bought and sold like at least 8 properties in the time I've known him. And now he does cash. He's been cash. He said, I haven't had a mortgage in like 30 years, Ann. I'm like, oh man, am I behind? But I'm Aquarius rising. I'm supposed to do stuff later, So, it's right for your life. That's the point. When you have an astrology reading or you look at your chart and you look back at the big things in your life, you go, yeah, that totally describes it. Yeah, that totally describes. Oh, that's my baby coming in. That's me getting married. That's me buying a house. Oh, that's my divorce. That's when my mother died. But now what the beauty of astrology is it shows you, hey, we're changing stuff. Get ready for the changes. How do you want to work with them constructively? That's the gift of astrology. It says to you, the person that you meet on Tuesday is going to be important because there's a big aspect that, right? And how many people had big events on Friday when the Sun Venus met up to start a new 8-year cycle? And Mars hit that node, the eclipse from last summer, and hit the Venus-Sun conjunction, the retrograde one where it said reconsider. And Mars said, I'm starting a new 2-year cycle about how I connect in the world.
It would be really interesting for people to look at what happened for you on Friday, the 26th of this month. Just take notes. Like even just if you go through and think of the conversations you had, the people you met, the decisions you're considering, put them down and then track them and see if they indeed became very important pivotal moments for you. That's really interesting. And there's some people saying we should have a class on astrocartography. We are going to have workshops on astrocartography. So look for that. And that's basically where you can use astrology to help you decide where are the right places for you. But I would also say, Anne, don't you think with astrology that it ends up being confirmation of what you know? Because when you meet that person on Tuesday and you go, wow, that felt really significant. Usually that feeling is correct. And then the astrology comes in and goes, yes, here's why. Like, here's why that intuition you had is true, or that place you've always been drawn to live. It's like, yes, there is a reason you're drawn to that. And here's why. Here's what the astrology can clarify for you and confirm for you, until we get to a point where we trust that intuition more and more. So I think that's one of the gifts of astrology.
And also a lot of times, a relationship starts and then it evolves over time.
Yes.
But the seeds of it are always in that acorn of how it started.
Yes. And you don't know back.
Yeah, you don't, but you it's starting, something started, but you don't actually know what it's going to become. But if you look at the chart of the meeting, you can see it. So a lot of times when I'm reading someone and I know they're going to study with me, I'll see it in their chart, and I do a regular reading, but I add in like extra astrology because I can tell they're going to come study with me, study astrology with me. So you see the connections once you know the astrology, and it's good. It's kind of an interesting. It gives you an interesting perspective. But also, I mean, one of my students, she's like a stellium in Scorpio, and she would look at the closing aspect and she'd go, bad closing aspect, I'm not even going out with them. And it would be like, wow, okay. Like, wasn't doing it. And I mean, she was very firm about the whole thing.
Did it work for her, like throughout her life?
Yeah. When she learned astrology, she was like, bad closing aspect, not doing anything. Not initiating. You can do stuff on them, but not initiating.
Do you know what?
At one time I was at a party and we were talking about this, and one of my other students, who's a brilliant astrologer too, she had clearly never thought about the first meeting being the date of the relationship. It's not, that describes what's going to happen in the relationship, the birth of the relationship, right? And you get married and you do it, because people obsess about their wedding. I'm like, it's really the first meeting day. Go back to that. So she whips out her phone. She's looking it up, and I'm going, "Oh shit! I hope it's a good aspect." Like, I hope I didn't just ruin her night. And she whips up the date, and she goes, "Moon square Jupiter." I'm like, "Hey, you have a lot of fun. You travel a lot. You guys are always moving and going, and it's an abundant life." And she's like, "Yes, it is." And it, so yeah.
Yeah.
But it does describe how it's going to turn out. So it's important, on initiating energies to be attentive.
Right.
Or just look, But I also have people, good astrologers who've elected a chart. Eventually, hard times are going to come to every chart. That's just the way it works. and they can pick the most perfect chart, but it's still gonna, when the hard transits come, it's still gonna describe, because every chart is Saturn, every chart is Pluto, every chart is Neptune. It's still gonna describe the story you're going through. So
yeah,
it's big. Yeah.
You know, it also helps you trust timing a little bit better, because it's like, you know, if I'm forcing this into some sort of timing that I think is right, maybe I should trust the timing that's naturally unfolding, because there's probably an intelligence behind it. And so that's another gift. Okay, so I don't think you ever gave us a number, Anne.
I kind of waffled on that, Amanda.
You did.
I'm gonna go, you know, like 3 to like 800.
Wow.
I'm gonna do a big range. I'm really reluctant to, you know, because Neptune is so prominent right now, and the nodes are so active. You know, it is, you know, it's got that energy of a tsunami, or an energy of, it can be, you know, like that huge wave coming in, or it can be, you know, a nice day at the Caribbean, on the Caribbean, you know. So we've got that boat stuck in the Suez Canal, right? And they kind of, and I loved it. They were like, well, we're waiting for the full moon because the tides are higher, so we can float the boat off the sandbar. And also what happens in the full moon is the tides are, on the equinoxes, the tides are lower too, right? So they go high and they go really low, which is why the thing ran aground. But it was interesting hearing that on the radio. That, oh yeah, they're working with the full moon, but they have to wait till the next tide, and then they're going to pull it some more. So it's an interest, because in Gloucester, in Massachusetts, I have a couple of friends that live up there, and they put the boats in the water on the spring equinox, and they take them out on the fall equinox, because that's when the tides rise the highest and go the lowest, you know, in terms of the year.
So people practicing astronomy and astrology. So there's astronomical things like an equinox or a solstice. Those are actual tracking movements. And then how it corresponds or affects our life here on Earth. That's the astrology part. So that's brilliant. I love that that's happening in real time. And okay, so we have a week that's a 3 to an 800. We have, this is a time that's setting.
And I know you're all going, no, it's Mars and Gemini. One part might be a 3. The other part might be 800. Think about all those, you know, all the ships that got diverted have to go down around Africa, you know, adding 2 weeks to the shipment. And then the ones that are stuck in the canal. So we can predict moon sextile Saturn, or, you know, moon sextile Pluto, they're going to start moving through the canal and making money as of tomorrow when the moon goes into Scorpio. Anne's prediction. So we'll see what happens.
All right. And Ursula asked, what do the numbers mean? That's our intensity scale. We've been doing that since March of 2020. So
Amanda gave me a 1 to 10, and I'm like, I can't be constrained like that.
Yes, it is a 1 to 10 scale. So when you hear 800, you know that means that's Anne's way of saying it. It could be very, 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 very intense, off the charts intense.
Very
okay.
intense.
So we have,
and it'll vary based on where these planets hit, but it's got an element of intensity because Mercury is at the last degree of the last sign, and when he shifts, he takes all the Aries planets with him. So it'll feel like a whoa, that's a change. It'll have that kind of feel to it. Yeah.
Okay. So in summary, we have a week that's setting us up for assertion, meaning like things could be closing up and we feel like we want to move, but we don't quite know where to move yet or how to move in some cases. It can be very emotional. There's this anticipatory energy to it. Some people may be feeling, okay, let's roll on whatever was getting set up around December 21st of 2020. They may be finally feeling the like, okay, that was up then. Now it's time to start going in the direction of that thing, whatever that was. We have choices. These are important, but remember, we might have time to course correct. So just starting to make choices and move in directions is good.
Right.
There's a finding out or revealing energy. So things getting exposed.
Huge finding out and revealing. Huge.
Okay. Huge finding out and revealing. All right. Things still may be unclear for you as you're like, if you're one of those people that is feeling this anticipatory energy, but you're not totally clear where you're supposed to place it. That's part of the astrology right now too. So don't be too hard on yourself. I was reminded when you were speaking of an archetype that Bronwyn Simon, she's one of our inner circle guides this year. She brought it up in our forecast for the year. The bamboo, like think about the energy of the bamboo, which is like deeply rooted in the ground, but it can sway and move with the wind. And it's actually quite beautiful. And it sounds amazing when it sways with the wind. So imagine yourself as bamboo, as these tides are shifting, anchored, but flexible. And you talked about the skiing, which is also a great.
Or playing tennis where you kind of sit bent waiting to go. You can go either way. Yeah.
Right. Okay. You called it a weird week energetically.
Very weird. Yeah.
Very weird. You said the moon is irritated Sunday and Monday. So there's going to be like that sort of irritated energy around the end of the week and into next week. Yeah.
Yeah. The weekend and the weekend both have irritated energy. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Beginning in it.
Right. Yeah. Fraternizing the weekend. The Sag moon is nice. The one on the 1st and the 2nd, that has a nice closing aspect.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's what you want to know is because there's so much emotion and water flying around. The Sag moon is make a choice, but make a choice with a provision. Say, okay, I'm making that choice. This is great, but I might change my mind, and that's okay. It's like a lot of times we feel like when we make a decision and we say we're going to do something, we have to do it forever. But it's also okay to change your mind. Think of this as a transactional action more than a commitment action. Right? More transactional than commitment, meaning it moves me a further step down the road, but I'm not sure I'm committing yet. I'm not sure how I'm committing, maybe is a better way to say it.
Right. Okay. All right. Okay. Revealing we already said that. Structures changing in relationship and wrapping things up in relationships. So if there's things you need to wrap up with people in order to move forward. I had someone call me out of the blue and just say, I owe you. We did a trade years ago. You never took your massage, which was with the trade. You never did it. And I feel weird having that just hanging out there. I'd like to close that up with you somehow. So she was taking that proactive step to close up what felt like a loose end for her. And so where we have those loose ends, it's like close them up because it's more energetic. I had totally forgotten. It wasn't about that for her. It was more about for her to close something up so that she could move forward with peace of mind. So be thinking about those things where you have those loose tendrils and how can you just close that leak, that energetic leak.
That's a really good description of the energy, Amanda. Yeah.
Okay. What we learned in June. Oh, I had a question. So you keep talking about this June eclipse of 2020. So one of the easiest ways that I find to go back and figure out what I was doing then, you guys, is to look at my calendar, to look at my pictures in my phone, because it puts them by date. And that'll be like, oh yeah, that's what I was doing. And that's what I was, so that might be helpful for you, those of you who don't journal all these things down. But I have a question for you. So June of 2020, something was happening with the eclipses. Things were up in our life, whatever that storyline was for you.
This conjunction was joining. Yeah.
So is this a new opportunity to try that thing again, but with the information that we gleaned from that time?
Yes.
Okay. So those things
what happened then was there's every 9.5 months, Venus and the Sun meet up in a conjunction and they initiate a cycle. So the one that happened in June was Venus was retrograde, and she said to the Sun, I'm thinking about this. I don't think I'm ready to do it. Retrograde, she withdrew her energy. And then, of course, we went through the summer, and Mars came along and stirred all this stuff up. And then now Venus and Sun are in Aries, and she's shifting from a morning star to an evening star. So now she's more like, I'm willing to partner now more. I'm ready. I want to partner more because now she's in what's called a superior conjunction where she's saying, let's dance kind of thing. And so that we see she kind of goes between morning star and evening star. When she's morning star, she's lusty, she's Taurus, she's connected. When she's evening star, she's Venusian. Well, also what happened in that eclipse, that was when the full moon, the opening quarter happened, that we now have the full moon for. So there's a whole bunch of energy. And if you actually go back to October of 19 and the conjunction that happened then in Libra, that's really where the story started. So it started then, and then in June we had choices. Maybe we didn't make them, or maybe we thought about it, or maybe we weren't sure yet. But now the universe is back again saying, okay, I gave you 9 months, human gestation period. You ready? And so there should be a welling up of us saying, yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
On some level for the next step, even if I don't know, I'm nervous with it, whatever that is. Yeah. So it's a really juicy kind of pull. But the other part it's doing is it's saying, think back to 99, because the cycle that you started in 2000, that one's done. And now you're going to the next level, but you have to get the plans in place to make that shift happen. And that's what this year is for. It's setting up the 20-year cycle that began. It's very, very rare to have all these major cycles starting in 1 year period. So we had Saturn and Pluto, which is a 30-year cycle, 38-year cycle. We had Jupiter and Pluto, which is a 13-year cycle. We had Saturn and Jupiter, which is a 20-year cycle. And they're all beginning at the same time. So we're real, and they're all on that one little tiny part of the zodiac, that little clump of planets traveling together. So our energy is now, it's starting to break up. Everybody's going their own way. And now we have an opportunity to go, okay, so we're going out. We're going out. I mean, I rode my first plane in a year, and it was a little weird. But I had my little mask and, but it's like, all right, we're going out again. What does that out look like? And so it's an interesting energy. Of course, with the energy of spring, that the planets in fire want to go. They want to go. They're inspired, right? So, but it's also kind of because of the Pisces energy. It's like the foggy morning when you get up and the sun hasn't quite burned off the marine layer because it's not gotten high enough or hot enough. So it's a little misty and foggy. It's not clear. And that does trouble people. They're like, well, I'm not clear. I'm like, you're not supposed to be. You'll be clear in December, January. No. I'm not in charge. I'm not in charge. I just interpret, right? So.
Nice. Okay.
Trust
all right.
me, if I was in charge, it would run a whole different way.
Yes, I'm sure. Okay. So we're also, we need to pay attention to when we're given instructions. So we're being given instructions that can come through lots of different ways. That doesn't necessarily mean you're getting instructions, but you're getting guidance, you're getting input that's helping you follow the right path for you. So it's paying attention to what those things are, and using your body as a barometer is always a good way to do that. It's like, ooh, that feels right. Ooh, that feels wrong. I know some people are more inclined to do that than others, but it's a great compass. And so to trust that as you're getting those instructions and that feedback.
Because a lot of it is nonverbal. It's a feeling. It's a feeling. It's not verbal yet because Mercury is in Pisces. So they have a feeling about things. They don't have articulated. And and sometimes, I've learned to trust my feelings. And a lot of times I'll say to somebody, well, didn't you see it? And they're like, yeah, I ignored it. Don't ignore this. You'll hear it a couple times. And when you hear it, because Mars is in Gemini, you got to do it twice. Like we had to do this podcast twice. You're going to hear it 2 times. So just trust the process. Did I hear it twice? Okay, then I should really pay attention to it.
Yeah. All right. Anne, thank you so much for being here, for being our navigator through these tides. Thanks to all of you. This is amazing. We have almost 1,000 people on live. You're live with it. So maybe the later time's better for people, but anyways, thank you so much everybody for being here. We do have, again, Sacred Astronomy is open, and that's astrologyhub.com/astronomy. And then next week, we will be launching Astrology in Your Pocket with Anne. And so for those of you who are like, God, I love Mondays with Anne, wouldn't it be cool if I could get even more guidance from her throughout the week as things are happening? We are launching something for you next week. Again, I'm sorry, international friends. It's not because of us. If we could offer it to you right now, we would. But the platform we're using, it just doesn't enable international yet. But we will have a wait list for you. But those of you in the US, Canada, And I think there might be one other place you'll be able to do this right away. It's going to be very, very, very affordable. So it's like 16 cents a day. You'll be able to do this and have Anne, and we'll have more details next week, but it is launching next Monday. So that's one of those things where Anne, we decided it's like, okay, this is a new direction. Let's do it. I'm so excited because it's just a way for you to have that astrological guidance at your fingertips all the time. And coming from Anne, who we just love. So you'll get to hear her voice. Literally, she's going to be sending a daily audio with a summary of the weather for the day. So you'll know, like, do I need to bring an umbrella? Is this going to be one of those 300 days, or is this more like a 3-day?
Today is the 300 day. Yesterday was the 2. Yeah, yes. And also the aspects for the day, because when you watch them come in, and when I teach students, I always encourage them to pay attention, like when the aspect perfects, or look at the chart, when they do something, like look at the chart and see how it reflects it. So when you're in a party in the room, the noise in the room changes, and it gets louder, it gets quiet, the aspect changed, the hour changed, you've got that shift of energy. So I think it's a really great idea. And it's Amanda's idea. So it's like, go for it.
Because you know what, Anne? This is the thing that I always wanted. When I was learning astrology, when I was new to astrology, and I actually kind of had, because I became friends with the astrologer who gave me my first reading. So I literally I felt like I had her in my pocket. I'd be like, Natasha, what's going on? Please tell me. So this is my gift to all of you, because it's the same idea. It's like you'll have Anne in your pocket, and you'll feel like you have that guide with you throughout your days, throughout your week. And I know, and we'll keep doing this show on Monday, so you get to
you get the long version, but then the daily dose of astrology in your pocket.
It is a daily dose. Yes, she's going to be handing out our little supplements each day. Thank you,
building strong astrologers in multiple ways,
Yes, because that's the other thing, is get to learn astrology as the transits are happening. It's like, oh, this is what a square feels like. Oh, this is what an opposition feels like. Oh, this is what happens when the moon's doing this. So you actually get to learn as you're going. So that's all happening next week. Get ready, everybody. We're so excited to be able to offer this to you. And thanks for being here. It's so amazing to share this space with all of you. Anne, good luck when you see your new house. We're so excited for you to see it.
I'm very excited. Yep. I close Wednesday. So
all right. Here we go.
I'm ready. I transferred the money this weekend. That was very, very, again, like, ooh, but then one of my friends said, you just have a new asset class. Yes. And I went, that's a helpful reframe. Thank you for saying it like that.
Yes, you're not like spending it, you're investing it.
Lots of property and hasn't had more. He said it's like buying celery in the market. I'm like, it is not like buying. It's transactional. It's like buying celery in the market. I'm like, come on, this is a lot. This is a pretty expensive stock of celery.
Yes,
it's good. Change is good. I listen to my own advice.
Yeah.
So embrace the change and give yourself, I listen to what the stars tell me. It's not my advice. It's there. Thank you guys for pointing out that this is the next chapter. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. And we'll be thinking of you, and can't wait to see you all at our original time, our normal time, this next Monday.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye. Thank you for being here. Thank you for making astrology a part of your life. We'll catch you very soon. Take care.